Racing to the 2026 Kentucky Derby, and this time let's get an update on the road to the Kentucky prep races. 10 points to the winner. We've got the American Pharoah Stakes, the Champagne Stakes, and also the Keeneland Futurity. Of course, these are points races on the road to the Kentucky Derby 2026, but more importantly, they're also prep races for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and Future Stars Friday, the American Pharoah at Santa Anita, the Champagne Belmont at Big A, Keeneland Futurity at Keeneland, and of course these races, 10 points to the winners, 5 points for second, points awarded all the way down to the 5th place finisher. And let's kick it off. These are dirt races, 1 mile for the Champagne, a mile and a 16th for the American Pharoah and the Keeneland Futurity. We go to Keeneland opening weekend, Saturday, nice day of stakes racing, good weather, the Grade 1 Keeneland Futurity. Of course, Ted Noffey, the big favorite into the race, he was 2 for 2, had won a maiden race, had won the Grade 1 Hopeful. Early on, it was Litmus Test taking the lead, Ted Noffey sitting in second on the outside. Of course, it's always important to get position at Keeneland with that short stretch. Litmus Test led him early on in the race, soft to average fractions, and then as we enter the stretch, it looks like Ted Noffey going to take the lead. He had momentum coming into the stretch. Always important to kind of have that lead or be in position to take the lead. Ted Noffey makes it 3 for 3. He's the son of Into Mischief. Of course, Into Mischief, the sire of Sovereignty, the 2025 Kentucky Derby winner. And Ted Noffey, trained by Todd Pletcher, now 3 for 3, wins this race. The fractions were kind of average, 23.96, very consistent, another 24 quarter for the second quarter, another 24 second quarter for the third quarter. The 1 mile split was 137.43 with the Keeneland Futurity, and overall it came back a 97 buyer. Ted Noffey now 3 for 3. Looks like he could be going to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile for the son of Into Mischief. The second place finisher was Blackout Time. He was third early. He passed Litmus Test late for second, picking up those 5 Kentucky Derby points. Trainer Ken McPeak not committed to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. They may wait for the Churchill Downs Stakes race in November and then kind of gear him up for a 3-year-old campaign. They think he's going to be a distance horse. He's done well in the 2-turn races, won at Ellis Park, and then coming in second here at the Keeneland Futurity. Third place finisher, no word yet. We'll see what he does. Of course, Bob Baffert's got other horses pointing for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So Litmus Test stretched out and ran third here. Of course, Blackout Time might be going to Churchill Downs. Now, Spice Runner broke a little bit slow in this race. Of course, he kicked off to the road to the Kentucky Derby with a 10 points in the Iroquois Stakes. Never really got involved after breaking slow and having a rough start to this race, but the top 3 kind of dominated the Keeneland Futurity in this race. Ted Noffey, Breeders' Futurity win, 10 points for the gray on the road to the 2026 Kentucky Derby. Now, the Champagne Stakes was at the Belmont at Big A. The big favorite in this race was It's Our Time, the big speed figure in his maiden win. You had Curtain Call second in his last race, and then you also had Napoleon Solo, a big winner, first time out, and Talkin' also getting some support. Early on, Napoleon Solo out of that outside post took the lead on a kind of a fast pace on the clock. They went fast early, fast for the half mile, and also fast for the 6 furlong call. Napoleon Solo with that lead early on. Now, It's Our Time elected to lay off that fast pace. Then we pick it up into the stretch. Napoleon Solo kicking it in late. He kind of blew away the competition. They couldn't keep up after that fast fractions. The rest of the field kind of fades out of this race. Now, I think the talking point out of the Champagne is going to be the fractions. Some people are already thinking the fractions posted on the clock are not accurate. We'll talk more about that. But Napoleon Solo picks up those 10 points on the road to the Kentucky Derby. Will he go to the Kentucky Breeders' Cup Juvenile? We have not heard anything yet. But let's look at the chart, the Equibase chart, and looking at some of the fractions, 44 and change for 4 furlongs, 108 and change for 6 furlongs for It's Our Time. The leader, Napoleon Solo, 107.4 and 121, a shade under that for the 7 furlong. He finishes the final time in 134 and 3/5. That is very fast. The fractions are fast at 4 furlong mark, the 6 furlong mark, the 7 furlong mark. Now, some people question the fractions because these are just fast fractions for 2-year-olds and for lightly raced horses in general. Now, Craig Mikulski does a lot of work for Timeform US. He times races, comes up with speed figures. He checked the tape, and he says that the second call, comparing it with the Discovery Stakes earlier on the card, these are accurate fractions. When you take the race 2 and then compare it to the Discovery Stakes, the second quarter image in comparison to the quarter mile pole shows that these are accurate. But again, until we see some of the horses coming out of here, we'll have to kind of reserve judgment. One thing I will note, that if these are fast fractions in a second lifetime race, it's going to be asking a lot to ship to the Breeders' Cup and then risk the possibility of a bounce. But Napoleon Solo, a fast pace, second career race. Does he bounce if he goes into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? Chad Summers going to have a lot of questions to answer. He is the trainer. Al Gold with a good one here with Napoleon Solo, who's the son of Liam's Map, of course, who won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, ran a big race in the Whitney, ran some other big races in his short career. Now, Napoleon Solo, 10 points in the Champagne Stakes on the road to the Kentucky Derby. Then we go out west, the American Pharoah. Bob Baffert with 4 runners, Civil Liberty, Balboa, Christopherson, and Desert Gate. Desert Gate was second to Brant. We pick it up early, average pace. Desert Gate doing a lot of the dirty work, setting the pace, kind of on the front end. Had to fight off Christopherson early. Intrepido sat 3rd and 4th, kind of at the rail. They elected to lay off this pace, and Intrepido into the stretch was 3rd and then ran down Desert Gate late. Plutarch made an inside move at the rail. That's kind of unusual for young horses. I thought Plutarch ran another good race. He seems to be improving very slow. Kind of got a stout pedigree, but Intrepido picks up the win. Looks like he's going to go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Picked up an 87 Beyer. Came from off the pace, ran down Desert Gate late. Interestingly enough, after the race, Doug O'Neill, or Jeff Mullins, said he was concerned that it would be a dogfight if he went to the lead against Desert Gate. They laid off the pace. They did not want to go after those leaders, and it may have hurt Desert Gate battling Christopherson early, and it looks like Intrepido going to go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Now, the Equibase chart, Desert Gate cutting out the fractions, kind of moderate fractions, but he was involved in a little bit of a fight early with Christopherson, then had to put away Plutarch on the inside, and then Intrepido came on late on the outside to pick up that win in the American Pharoah. The Beyer speed figures for the 3 races are out. Of course, doesn't incorporate pace as much, more of a performance figure. Ted Noffey with a 97, Napoleon Solo with a 94, Intrepido with an 87. We'll see with Brant going into the race as well, who is favored in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But Ted Noffey, 3 for 3, 2 Grade 1 wins. Brant, of course, the 1 Grade 1 win and a little bit of time off getting ready for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Share this video with one horse racing friend. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Breeders' Cup Future Stars Friday starting to shape up. Get all the information on the Breeders' Cup prospectus. We'll have picks, post position stats, and more. Sign up below in the description to be notified first when that comes out. Breeders' Cup week for Future Stars Friday. And what did you think of the American Pharoah? What about those fractions in the Champagne? Ted Noffey, another big win at Keeneland in that Grade 1 race. Of course, we're getting inside 25 days now for the Breeders' Cup. We're going to get the nominations, then we're going to get the early nominations, and then also some start to handicap these races ahead of time as we get all of the races the week of the Breeders' Cup week. Should be a good Breeders' Cup 2025. The road to the 2026 Kentucky Derby. 3 more horses picking up points along with Spice Runner kicking it off in the Iroquois. Leave a comment on who you like of these 3 Kentucky Derby prep race winners. And remember, D. Wayne Lukas always said, people have opinions, horses have the facts.